Back to our commentator now, Phil Lamb.
So West Perth have spread out into their positions in readiness for this second half. East Perth, by contrast, still in a very tight huddle at the half-forward line. Andy Lovell still with them and making the most of his time at half-time. Paul Mifka, of course, a former champion with the Falcons, and wasn't he a big game player? I well remember the 1995 grand final when Mifka played on Jason Heatley and kept him goalless. And that was a very important step in West Perth, taking out that grand final, that premiership I should say, under the guidance of coach John Dimmer. Well, John Dimmer's in a supporting role this afternoon. Darren Harris, the man at the helm, and Mark Seeby taking up position about to oppose Zach Beck for the first centre bounce to start the second half.
It was just interesting, Phil, watching East Perth interchange. I only saw two run off. I may have missed a couple. I know Luke Webster certainly wasn't one. Dean Buzan and Thompson were the only two that came off. So we know Webster's gone. I'm not sure who the other one is that may be incapacitated. Maybe Rod Willett may find out. Christian Kelly on screen, who was omitted from this side today. So wonder whether we can get back in for next week if West Perth make their way to the grand final.
Not sure of the circumstances. West Perth without Corey Johnson through injury and Christian Kelly. CB gives them a good start. Well, he won the knock, then robed his own ruck work beautifully. Works the ball up towards the half-forward line, looking there for Lynch. Swooping through there was Pryor, who gathered the footy. Defensive kick out toward the boundary line. And East Perth will sigh with relief as it goes over.
Well, Jeremy Hammer's got the role on Troy Longmuir at this early stage of the third quarter. Adam Selwood was the one that did finish off with him.
So David Swan going late to the bench. Not sure about the circumstances of him coming off. Speaking of number 35s, Kepler Bradley took the ball, kicks the ball into the pocket. Troy Longmuir is there, had to squeeze his kick through a difficult gap. Did it very, very well. The crumbs are there with Fuster as he got the first one. He's hit the post. We've seen a few of those already this afternoon. And Brendan Fuster, well, what sort of a start would have that been? It would have been a fairy tale start to the second half for the Falcons.
Well, it sure would have been. And look at this man again. Jeremy Hamwer is somewhere in the vicinity, 3 or 4 metres tracking behind him there.
Meanwhile, East Perth moving it around the wing, shielding his eyes from the sun there, Cal, but was all to no avail. The ball bouncing wide and out of play.
Swan looks like he's going to come onto the ground now, Glenn, so I'm not sure where the East Perth runner is going to see who may come off.
7-goal margin. East Perth's tilted history very much looking like it will be stopped today by the Falcons. This is Wheatley across the body. Butcher concedes front position in the end, and Laskoff takes the mark. Links up by hand with Todd Curley, the former Western Bulldog. High, Lalich in front, sport by Lynch. Britton the crumbs, squaring kick, coming out in defence. Turnbull meets it full-chested on the bounce. Ryan Turnbull, Jules Simpson medalist in grand finals for East Perth. Cow showed courage. He's collided with his own teammate Bromont. They're both down. Things going from bad to tragic at the moment for East Perth. Loose ball gathered out wide on the wing here by Beck. He rides a bump as he kicks up towards half forward. Cousins does well against weight of numbers. Got it to Salisic. His hand pass missed Rigol. Lacroix in, spins out of trouble. Thought about hand passing to Todd Curley. Comes out wide. Seeby the target. Trainer's almost mixed up in the action. Ball near the boundary line. Lascott will take it over. Both those East Perth players, Bromont and Cowell, are up, but safe to say that Cowell in particular is not 100% as we see here the collision of that pair.
It almost looked as though Cowell was unconscious. It took him a long time to stir. That was a collision that nearly took out 2 Royals in one hit. Boundary throw in, neither ruckman got a fist to it. Eventually it was Curley that put a fist into it. It comes back to the ruckman in Seeby. He punts it high to the half-forward line. Lalich, not favoured by the bounce in the end. He did very well to palm it down to Cowell. Brent Cowell to Wheatley, their best player last week. He goes to the half-forward line again. East Perth through Ridley conceding front berth. This allows Salisic in. Just a toe poke over the top of oncoming traffic to Cousins, who gave it back to Salisic, but he didn't take it cleanly. Cowell cleverly taps it into the path of Ridley. Goes looking for Wilson, but it bounced at his feet. It always makes it difficult for big men to take possession like that. And Duckworth in the end with a check side kick delivers beautifully to half-back,
Chambers.
Taken by Curley, and Chambers again.
Rigol.
Well, he must have something that we don't know about. Chambers has gone forward of the plate of Rigol. Likewise, didn't have anyone near him. Rigol delivers towards McLean. Couldn't take the mark. Been his downfall this afternoon. Simmons swoops on it. Goes with a high kick back up towards centre wing. Rigol read the bounce best to Britton. Now Britton to Chambers. Can he kick his fourth? Inside 50. Usually kicks these. He was just off balance. Just offline. Minor score only, but The important thing, Doro, is that West Perth's still doing all of the attacking.
They are, and they've had, what have we got, 4-1 inside 50s in this early part of the third quarter. Just enough pressure from the East Perth defender just to put a bit of pressure on that kick.
Chambers 4 goals 2 this afternoon off hands. He's lurking again. The hand pass back, awkward there for Bradley. Tries to burn off Beck and does well. Two big men there going head to head. Hugs the boundary line with a kick. Britton wanted to play on. The man on the mark just being pulled back a few metres, Michael Pryor. Glenn Britton chips it short. McLean on the lead. One sticks. He's had troubles both on his chest and overhead today, Travis McLean, but he's taken that one. Can line up now for his second. He kicked 3 last week in the losing side against Subi in the second semi. East Perth haven't legitimately looked like scoring in the opening 5 minutes of this third term. Their last goal came 23 minutes into the first quarter. With McLean goals here, the Falcons will have kicked the last 10 of the game from 52 metres. Hoists it high. It starts to arc back in front. Oh, almost a free kick it will be. Britton taken. We're not in possession. This will surely be 10 unanswered goals to the Falcons.
That probably shouldn't have happened. You'll see on vision there, there's 3 East Perth players. Ryan Turnbull and young Hancock there. And just a tackle lingered on Glenn Britton there on screen. Just needed to be a little bit of talk there. One of them would have been able and should have been able to go up there and try and mark that footy. Not to be. And 10 goals in a row for West Perth is on the scoreboard right now.
He's kicked 26 goals this season, Glenn Britton. He's been a good foil inside 50 for Travis McLean. Dead in front, 11 metres out. They get the first of the third quarter to extend the margin to beyond 8 goals, and you'd have to imagine now that as Andy Lovell looks on, his first season of coaching is about to rapidly become a nightmare.
Well, you couldn't possibly see East Perth kicking 8 goals. Like they're not winning enough of the football, and either a defensive punch is required here or somebody like young Hancock there, Phil, to maybe mark the footy. There was a lot of Royals numbers around there, but nobody did anything. And Glenn Britton, good little job, kicks a goal.
Has been a live wire and normally is for the Falcons across half forward, a real opportunist. Well, where are the opportunities going to come from for the Royals? Cowell was pulled off it. The hand pass goes out to Logan, who came from Seavey. Logan gets to the point of the square, goes with a pass up toward full forward. No mark taken there by Troy Longmuir. He fell awkwardly. Hung gets the kick away. Still Longmuir's down towards the half forward line, or at least the half back line for the Royals. Half forward line for West Perth, and Logan has taken the mark. Another good game by the veteran Logan, and Logan's pass a beauty to Fuster. Again, Fuster just got 1.5 metres on Turnbull, and gee, the Royals are looking tired. The West Perth side, John, playing with an intensity I think that belies the hard game that they had against Subiaco. I would have thought the Subiaco match would have been a lot harder for them than the Royals match was against Claremont.
You would have thought that, and look, it's good to see Brendan. You know, his statistics there aren't too bad. He's worked very hard. Good to see him leading up at the football.
Well, East for West Perth's 12th goal. Kicks it on its way. Really didn't follow through at all with that kick. Lalich brings the ball to the ground, and then Simmons destroys it over the line and out of bounds. Well, it was an odd kick at goal by Brendan Fuster, as Regan Duckworth comes back onto the ground and Brad Murray has a spell.
Very odd kick from one of the most penetrative kicks in the WAFL to make the distance from 45 metres. 4 men up in that ruck contest. Pryor pulled off his kick. Clever evasion there by Lovett to Bromont to Selwood. Back now towards Lovett. They're outside the defensive 50, East Perth. Kick comes out wide. The mark taken by Tucky. Gets a short lead off it in the centre square by Ridley, but he's got bigger fish to fry. Goes towards Wilson. Clears both he and Duckworth. Fickle bounce there for Barnard coming out in front of Coops, and in the end the ball has gone out of play. 49-point lead to the Falcons, looking to make it consecutive grand finals. Last year they were blown away by East Perth on grand final day. Bit of a yawn for some spectators. All tossed in. Comes down towards the boundary line again. Regan Duckworth, we saw, just back on the ground. Cleverly bounces it along the line and out of play. Not a bad crowd today, 7,800. The league, I think, would be happy with that. a crowd in excess of 6,000 a day. Well, they've certainly got that. Logan from the ruck contest bounces it into the centre square over the head of Bradley. Arriving is the danger man Chambers. Overran the footy. So too did Selwood. Chance here now for Hancock. Lurking out the back door there is Pryor. He'll link up with Swan in the middle of the ground, drops the mark, but has the support forward of the play. Love it. Goes up looking for Ridley on the lead, but in front it's chopped off by Cousins for the Falcons.
Just textbook defensive play there by Cousins, who dropped into the hole and took that saving mark, gave it to Lacroix, rubbers the ball up towards centre wing. Bradley covering a lot of ground, gets the hand pass off to Coops, who couldn't take it cleanly. So much time, the West Perth players, to recover. He gets it now onto Cousins, who's backed up beautifully from deep in defence. He goes with a beautiful foot pass, and what a terrific mark taken there by Troy Longmuir.
Good transference of play.
Yep.
Paul Ridley, he didn't chase too hard out there. His opponent, Brett Cousins, is coming back. He was the one that kicked the ball to Troy Longmuir. This is the hardest thing to do in footy, to take the ball at full tilt in front of your eyes.
Well, Troy Longmuir has kicked 3, kicking on his 4th. It drifts away to the right-hand side. Doesn't call. It did have the carry because no one flew to try and put a fist into it. So behind to Troy Longmuir. He's got 3 goals, 1 as his personal tally this afternoon after kicking 3, along with Callum Chambers in that second term.
Stretches the lead now to 50 points. And East Perth have really shown no signs of getting back into the game in the opening 10 minutes of this third term. Sweet revenge for West Perth. It was a 60-point margin in the grand final last year when these teams last met in a final. Turnbull, who has won 2 Simpson medals in consecutive years for East Perth. I don't fancy he'll be making it 3 this year. As Turnbull kicks it high back towards centre half back. Love it, one of the smaller men there, takes the mark. He played on, the hand pass wasn't clean. West Perth slinging out, Love it can make amends. Little left foot kick up towards the stretching Tucky. Couldn't take the mark low down. Well done there though by West Perth Seavey. Got it forward towards a teammate in Lacroix. And the ball eventually out of play. West Perth fans look worried, they needn't be. I think they've got this one pretty much measured at the moment. The margin 50 points. As we see there, Chambers well tackled by Lovett. Results in this boundary throw-in. From behind, Lalich wins it down for the Royals. Ball bobbling around between legs. Logan, well tackled by Butcher. Another bounce. Subiaco awaiting the winner of this match in the grand final next Sunday. 12 minutes into this quarter, and it's 1-3 to West Perth, no score to East Perth, but Lovett does put the Royals to within 2 kicks of their goal line, but coming out in defence, Cousins, hand passes toward the line, picked up though by Bromott, fumble by Wheatley, didn't panic, Selwood, now Bromott again, off the side of the left boot, out comes Wilson, up he goes, couldn't take the mark, Duckworth, well claimed by lunging Wilson, Lacroix links up by hand with a teammate, and they can clear the ball off half-back as the kick comes from Lascott towards the wing, and the mark has been paid, at least the kick has been paid here to Britton.
He's having a tough day, Brent Kelly's just done a somersault there and hurt himself again.
A lot of Royals are down on their game today. Rigol, geez, got some space, goes short, couple to Raffle, and in the end he opts for Fusco. Well, last time Brendan didn't make the distance from 40 metres, this time he'll kick from 50.
Quentin Lynch is a bit longer a kick again, isn't he? And Brendan shouldn't have really no problems with his shot on goal in terms of a distance.
Rigol's coming off, Hunter's going on, Fuster goes long, touch and go. They've missed again. Gee, they really could have put a gaping chasm. The 51 points is a big enough lead, but they've kicked 1 goal for this quarter. East Perth have not troubled the scorers in the 13 minutes of the third term.
Well, when did they kick their 4th goal in the first quarter?
23 minutes in.
Long time ago in the context of this game. It's been all the Falcons virtually since quarter time. Lovett still trying hard. He got the pass from Simmons, goes with the pass now to Beck. There's a lot of short passing and stagnant football from the reigning premiers. Wobbly kick from Beck. Well, that just about says it all.
So people aren't working hard enough, Phil, to provide options for him, and he's left to kick it down the line to no one, and under a bit of pressure puts it out of bounds on the full.
His immediate opponent, Mark Seavey, to take the free kick. He goes with a short pass and finds Fuster, despite the opposition of Wheatley.
You wouldn't think East Perth are going to win and go around the boundaries, would you?
They need to go direct. They need to do something very, very quickly, whatever it is, as Fewster goes up towards the half-forward line. Plenty of Royals up in the air. They had a lot of tall timber there. No one really staying down. McLean rides a bump. Now picked up and walked over by Turnbull. An illustrious career has Ryan Turnbull. This will be one experience that he would sooner forget. Not that his own personal performance has been lacking, but as a unit this afternoon, the Royals have not been very impressive at all since quarter time. Hancock double-fisted over the line.
Well, you know, the other interesting thing to think about, Phil, of all the players that have had all this success, how many of them could this be their last game of football? Is Ryan Turnbull going to play footy again next year? Rod Wheatley, Jeremy Barnard, guys like that.
Yes, there are certainly some you'd think that over the summer or after today even may call it a day. Beck got the hand pass out, but only as far as Logan, who does him a favour and gives it back to him. Beck this time finds Cowell. As Doro said, he's had a day of outs today. Cowell, this hand pass finds Turnbull. Now to Hum, now to Pryor. They're out of trouble, the Royals. This time they've got the loose player on the outer side of the ground, Brent Tuckey, but really's got nowhere to run. As he got someone to kick it to, he has. A good lead's come this time by Barnard. He plays on quickly, looking there for Cowell, but Regan Duckworth in the way. Duckworth on his hands and knees, gets up and gets the footy. Away he goes. Well done, Regan Duckworth. Kicks to centre half forward. Strong mark taken there by Quinton Lynch. Wants to get on with it quickly. They've had runners all day down the flanks, West Perth. On this occasion, Lynch thinks perhaps that he might make the journey.
He might very well go close here, Phil.
He'll have to kick it 65 metres, even more. Lynch, one of the longest kicks in the business, sends it on its way, and he's just missed. The distance was there. Minor score only. But West Perth really reducing East Perth to something far less than what they have proven to be in recent years.
Well, keeping in mind when they last met, of course, they didn't kick a goal. East Perth kicked 9 behinds in round 20. The weather conditions were vastly different. But having said that, the other end of the ground, West Perth kicked 7 goals, 13. And that was the first time since the First World War that a team has been goalless throughout the entire match in the WAFL. As Lovett kicks out wide, falling over a teammate there. In fact, Bromont kicked it out wide, falling over teammate Lovett. Now Cowell's taken the mark. It'll be 50. Todd Curley not given much latitude and is being taken back. And this will bring Cowell to within about 50 metres of the goal line.
Well, he's just hanging on, wasn't he, Todd? The old professional kick, but the professional kick's going to cost him 50. Still beyond his distance, one would suspect.
Cowell sets it up on the lead. Ridley takes the mark, dead in front.
Too little, too few, I suppose. Like a terrific kick by Brent Cowell. Has had his ups and downs today. And Paul Ridley, he's kicked a goal early in that first quarter. A beautiful goal it was too. But for the best part, he has been very well held. But in saying that, the Royals still haven't had the ball going into their front half that they would normally have enjoyed during the game.
Well, they've gone the best part of 55 minutes of game time without a goal. Ridley dead in front. Gets his second. It brings some applause from what has been a reasonably quiet Royals fraternity over the last hour here at Subiaco Oval. East Perth finally have their fifth, their first since the 23-minute mark of the first term.
And he's their only multiple goal scorer too this afternoon, but a beautiful kick. There's not a lot that anybody could do. Brett Cousins, Paul Ridley's opponent, has done a wonderful job, but no defender can stop that if there is space for people to run into, and the kick was picture perfect.
So it's going to be Fewster opposed to Lalich. The second string ruckman, if you like, in both lineups. Lalich got a hand to it. Bromont tries to swoop. He was put down immediately. Here's Lovett from his knees. Scoops the hand pass out towards Hum. Defensively to Simmons. Paul Simmons now looking downfield for options. Goes to the target of Tuckey. Does he mark in front? Doesn't. And immediately the Falcons swoop. Tie it all up between the centre of the ground and centre half forward for East Perth.
Well, it's good for Mark Seaby's development, Phil, that he goes back. You can see there almost, but he just didn't control it. Controlled it initially, but it was out of his grasp on the way down.
Well, a lot of players around it. Coops in the end came over the top and got the knock. Regan Duckworth has it knocked away from him by Bromont. Selwood tripped over his own feet. Gets the hand pass though now to Lovett, being one of their better players. Directs it beautifully with the left boot and finds Cowell. Cowell. 26 votes on Sandover Middle Night. That's a beautifully directed pass to Barnard. Well, can they kick 2 consecutive goals, Barnard? Probably he's too far out to score. Goes with to the lead of Ridley, who doesn't let him down. Beautiful move of Paul Ridley. He's an even better kick.
Well, Phil, you can't defend from behind. It's just a simple rule of playing as a defender. If you want to allow your opponent to have a half a metre head start, you're never going to get the ball off him. And Brett Cousins, once again, a perfect kick by Jeremy Barnard into space. Ridley didn't have to break stride. Simple chest mark. Should be a simple goal for a man that's kicked in excess of 50 this season.
Well, certainly East Perth need it. The game needs it as well. As Ridley comes in and shoots accurately. So Paul Ridley has now got 3 goals. He got 1 in the first when the Royals dominated on the scoreboard. He's got 2 in this quarter. 19 and a half minutes have gone in the third term. Well, looking at those supporters, still some hope perhaps for the Royals, but they're really going to have to dominate, John, for the remainder of the match as they did in the first quarter.
Yeah, they will, and once again, Cowell, a great kick. Good effort by the West Perth defender, but Jeremy Barnard was in the advantage position, and look at that. Want to be playing forward now like you wouldn't have to work too hard to kick a few goals if the ball came in like that all the time.
2-1 on the scoreboard, 80 playing 40, but the Royals have got the last 2 of the game, and Ridley now 69 for the season. 1 down by Fuster in the ruck for West Perth, gathered by Bradley. Slips the Barnard tackle, then kicks very awkwardly across the face of the ground. The mark will be taken here, and away goes Lovett. 1 bounce, goes short, Ridley there again. He may run out of ground here, the ball beats him over the chalk. You'd have to think that East Perth would need to get maybe at least 3 unanswered goals before 3-quarter time, and that would narrow the margin to around 22 points. They've got the last 2 of the game. Free kick off the ball. It's going the way
West Perth.
Todd Ridley against Brent Cowell.
Bromont, Ridley was playing on Cowell as Cowell's endeavours to get to the forward half around the back of that throw-in, and Bromont just dropped Todd Ridley.
Short kick back into the corridor. You see Rigol coming on the ground. Mark Seavey, the ruckman, is being rested at the moment. Rigol had a dynamic game last week, 31 possessions and 4 goals in a losing team. Duckworth goes wide to the outer side. Lascott paid the mark. West Perth just the 1 goal this quarter, and that came 15 minutes ago. Awkward delivery there for Fuster, fisted away from behind by Lalich. Bromont went to ground awkwardly on the outer side. He picks himself up now. Logan on the boundary line, goes inside 50 off the chest of Pryor. He's got support back there. They need to be a bit clinical out of defence. Beck, the big ruckman, clears the intended target. Went over Lalich, taken by Lascott, squares it across half forward. The fall of the ball in front, unable to gather it there. West Perth shunted off. It was Reinhardt. Lynch had it spent before he gathered it from Truella. East Perth have some numbers. They almost made a mess of it there. That's not 15 metres off the boot of Selwood. Butcher has to play on his hand pass, picked off by Regan Duckworth.
So again, the Duckworth hand pass goes to the ground. Butcher tries to clear the pack with a socker. It's allowed to get away with it. Cowell picks it up, shoots the hand pass off now to Butcher, who's followed on well. Goes by left boot. Ridley again on the lead. Takes this one on the half volley. Goes this way and that. How good is he on the left boot? He's pretty good. He is terrific. Paul Ridley, almost single-handedly over the last 10 minutes or so for the Royals. Has he got them back into the game? He's got 4 goals. Well, they haven't shown much voice since quarter time, the Royals supporters. Now they've got something to shout about.
They certainly have, and that was an outstanding goal, a terrific goal. Brett Cousins was there, just hurting him up, but Ridley was sensational. Good tackle by Paul Simmons there, just to keep the ball alive for East Perth. Butcher just kept it moving and moving. Cowell with a good handball inside to Butcher. This wasn't a bad effort, just put it into the path of Ridley down here. Very smart, just kept his feet. Cousins couldn't do anything about that, and have a look at that. One can only dream of kicking a goal like that, Phil.
Beautiful.
That's his 70th goal. It's a pretty good performance. He's 5'11" in the old language, 180 centimetres tall. Reinhardt with the left foot goes up towards the 50 at the back. McLean takes the mark, too far out to score. Although the goal square is unguarded, he goes long, having seen that, running back with the fighter's hand clock. He was lucky. He lost that ball as it was coming in, and luckily for him, it cannoned into the padding of the left goalpost. Otherwise, he could have been horribly embarrassed.
Well, East Perth are winning this quarter, Glenn. They've kicked 3 goals to 1 goal 6. Like West Perth have been very wasteful going forward.
Simmons looking for and finding Lalich. They need another 1 or 2 before three-quarter time. Lalich kicks the ball out in front of Wheatley, looking tired, keeps the ball in play. Well, the ball had gone over the line and out of bounds. 23, nearly 24 minutes have gone. The Royal supporters finding some voice. Andy Lovell finding the phone. Certainly he wouldn't have given up yet. A quarter and a bit to go. Fuster and Lalich come together. No decisive knock one. Rigol looks for the boundary line. Will he find it? He won't. Lalich picks it up, gives it to Lovell. Did he step over the white line? He didn't. Just about being their best player. Finds Bromont. Long hand pass now to Selwood. Forward go the Royals again, starting to look a lot better. Wilson's on the charge. Ran underneath the footy. Here's a chance once again for Ridley, but he's beaten to it by Lacroix. Lacroix looks out towards our commentary side of the ground. Goes looking for the boundary line and just finds it well. Lurking there was Brent Cowell. He would be frustrated with that. An opportunity gone begging as
Salasic comes off.
Yeah, comes off, and Callum Chambers goes back on. So Darren Harris keeping the rotation going with his midfielders. Palm down across half back by Tucky. Truella was in there, but he had the ball held to him. The umpire blows the whistle, and almost right on the 50 for East Perth. We'll see a ball up.
Time ticking away for the Royals in this third quarter. We're just into the 26th minute. They have kicked 3 goals to 1, as John Dorotich mentioned. Play restarts. Butcher, creative knock. Truella is there, dragged down from behind by Cow, but he has close support. Coops, left footer back to centre half back. Ball still in dispute. Chambers gets it. Hand passes back defensively, then runs after it himself. Dispossessed there in the Tucky tackle. Coops a blind spin, does well, then gets a hand pass away. And riding the bump, Reinhardt, a high kick back to the centre of the ground. Bounces high off the turf. Wolf, who's been in the wars today, gathers. Can't shrug Britain. Lovett's hand pass ineffective. The umpire no doubt will call for a bounce. He lets it go, but eventually blows the whistle. This Perth crowd trying to gee on the defending premier. Their tilted history, the first team in the 72 years of the Final Four to win 4 in a row, looks tenuous at the moment. They trail by 35 points. Hum to Lovett. Squeezes a quick kick. Clean bowls Bromont, lurking at the back of the pack is Fuster. Goes very short. Lynch gets a good bounce. The helmeted Duckworth thought about going short. Now goes long and direct. Over the head though of Bradley. At the back Pryor. In the end they go out square. The boundary line looming. Can Swan keep it in play? If he can, there a chance here around the outer side because Cowell is free. That's the direction of the kick towards the outer wing. Brent Cowell up, takes a strong mark.
Stood his ground beautifully, Brent Cowell. He is tough and brilliant. Finds a teammate in Lalich forward of centre. Well, Lalich needs to go very long with this kick. Time is ticking away, as you can see there. Nearly 27 minutes have gone. Goes long. Ridley the target. He's got to outmark 2 or 3. Well, fortunately the pack collapses. Bromont's left standing. He needs to goal from here, but that's not a good kick. Didn't bend it back with the left boot. Opportunity goes missing. How handy would it have been? West Perth supporters breathing a sigh of relief.
Well, it was a terrific effort by Ridley just to compete and contest that incoming ball because he was outnumbered 3 to 1.
Duckworth short, finds Reinhardt down the corridor. Wants to swing it out very wide. Todd Curley will take it. No, he went to fist it on. He didn't realise there was no heat on. 3 metres in the clear. Logan gathers after Bromont went to ground. He then too falls over. The hand pass swatted away by Bromont, but only as far as Reinhardt. Couple of bounces over the members' wing, and there's the siren. It's 3/4 time at Subiaco Oval. East Perth gallant in that quarter, but they probably needed to kick more than 3 goals. They did hold West Perth to 1, but they're still going to take a 34-point deficit into the 3/4 time break. They did trail by 41 at half-time. As Lovett is down with cramp, it's a fairly warm day here, a spring day in Perth, and Andrew Lovett feeling the temperature. So too East Perth collectively. They trail by 34 points with a quarter remaining. The winner today advances to the grand final against Subiaco next Sunday. Troy Longmuir and Chambers, 3 goals apiece. They came in a blistering 9-goal second term from the Falcons, and Ridley kicking all 3 goals that quarter for the Royals to give him 4 for the day. But East Perth trailing by 34 points at 3-quarter time after they were down by 41 at the half, but after a good first quarter actually went into the first change leading by 14 points. Andrew Lovett slow to get up and will hobble across to the 3-quarter time huddle, and at this stage he mightn't even beat the coach because Andy Lovell has just made his way onto the ground. He has some worries. The team won the quarter but probably didn't win it significantly enough, John, to give them a lot of confidence going into the final term. They need to kick 6 unanswered goals to pinch a grand final spot.
No, they do, and it's going to be hard work because West Perth are going to be going to the leftist green, which is the end that's predominantly been favoured by the Breezes' Darren Harris. Still looking reasonably fit there, running onto the ground, and I think he'd be quite a content man. He'd probably be marginally disappointed that his side didn't win that 3rd quarter. They certainly played very well in that first half, but that 2nd quarter was the one that was the game breaker, and one would suspect, Phil, it's going to be hard work for East Perth. They're going to be kicking up to the 3-tier end. And
I think they threw everything that they had at West Perth in that quarter, and I think that losing the quarter 3 goals to 1, I don't think would have been devastating as far as Darren Harris or the players are concerned.
That's right. They're just got to be very mindful using the ball. That sun does cause some real problems going in, as we saw before, so they've got to use the ball efficiently on the way in.
Congratulations to our game day ball winner from last week. And because of the double header, 2 winners, 2 out in the country. Stephen Strawbrick in Katanning and Terry Ware in Beverley, telling us Alastair Piggott was the 2002 Sandover medalist. This year, of course, it was won on Wednesday night by Swan District's veteran Shane Berros. The last game day ball on offer this season. And the number to call if you can tell us who won this year's Bernie Naylor medal for the leading goal kicker at the end of the home and away season, 1-900 999 220. Who was the 2003 leading goal kicker, the Bernie Naylor medalist, 1-900 999 220. Our last game day ball competition for season 2003. Darren Harris probably just telling his team that a cool head and a good 30 minutes of football will see them in the grand final here next Sunday against Subiaco. And I guess in some ways it's a surprise the way this game has unfolded to many. Most people pre-game tipping East Perth. Rod Willett has been down very close by the West Perth huddle. What's Darren Harris had to say with a quarter remaining in the prelim final, Rod?
Well, he's asked all his players to make sure we keep our composure. That's really important. He's actually asked them to respond. They've responded to him. So the West Perth players are right on the ball at the moment. Expect them to finish really hard and over the top of East Perth.
Yes, you'd have to think that East Perth would need to probably get the first 3 goals of the quarter inside about 7 or 8 minutes to really give them some momentum to have a tilt. As we know, the game of Australian football, especially the way it's played nowadays, teams can close things down and slow down the opposition when they get a run on.
You mentioned cool heads, Glenn. I think that West Perth have got cool heads out there. The Rigols and Todd Curleys, Brendan Logans, these sorts of players who have been in finals before. I think they will have enough of that cool-headedness to prevail in this final term.
Let's have a look at the stats at 3-quarter time. West Perth, Brendan Fewster, 14 possessions. Kepler Bradley continues to impress. He certainly will be drafted at the end of the year. 16 disposals. Logan, 15. And we go down to the page. Troy Longmuir, only 8 kicks, but he's kicked 3 goals, 1, and was in a big part of that dominant second quarter with Callum Chambers. Andy Lovett, 19 possessions. Butcher, 13. Jeremy Humm, the West Coast Eagle, 15. And 10 to Paul Ridley. 4 goals, 3 of them coming in that term. Let's go back down to Rod Willett with East Perth coach Andy Lovell.
Andy, you've won 2 of the 3 quarters that have been played today, and you're still 35, 36 points behind.
Yeah, look, obviously we knew that if we let them get away, they could kick 7 or 8 goals in a quarter, which they did in the second quarter. So we've made it really tough for ourselves. But I was pleased with our effort in terms of, not levelling that quarter, but actually winning it. 3 goals to 1 was a good effort. Look, I've just spoken about winning the contested ball. If we can do that and we can use the ball and run and get some play on game going and get it inside 50, we're capable of kicking 7 or 8 goals a quarter. So we still give ourselves a chance.
Is the players confident?
Yeah, look, the players are confident. We've been here before. Look, obviously it's going to be a huge ask, but it's not impossible.
Thanks, Andy.
Paul Ridley, who was the go-to man in that third term, he kicked all 3 goals in the quarter for East Perth. They need to get it to him and Brent Tuckey, Troy Wilson, with a fair bit of irregularity. They're also throwing Butcher up forward, so they've got 4 tall marking forwards.
Barnard's on the bench too for East Perth.
And so too Buzan.
Yeah, well, he's played a very small role today, Dean Buzan.
Yes, he didn't play last week. Perhaps it was a late withdrawal because of the weather conditions, and it was very inclement. No rain here today. Cowell gets East Perth forward from the bounce. Can they get an early goal? Coming out in defence, Lacroix dodges around Butcher, straightens up and then kicks over the member's wing. Back with the flight, Lalich couldn't mark. Lovett coming up for disposal, number 20. Little deft hand pass off to Beck, who's almost playing a kick behind play down ground, and Lalich takes the mark. Bromott has just slipped onto the ground.
Zach Beck's playing centre-half back now, Glenn. Lalich is the on-ball ruckman.
Lalich, a high kick. Tuckey in front, couldn't mark. Cowell can't gather off the ground, backed up by Wheatley. Stand, start, drop punt will land in the arms of Stephen Coops.
Coops holding East Perth's real first forward thrust off. It was touched off the boot, was it? Well, certainly no. Duckworth didn't hear it. He played on.
Yep.
Hand passes though to Coops, who gave him good support. Threads his way through traffic. Short pass to Rigol. Well, he went to his knees, Kim Rigol. Certainly it's East Perth on their knees just at the moment as Rigol goes out wide to Murray. Knocks the ball further afield. Beck will get back there for East Perth. Rides the bump. Put on him by Lynch. Still the ball in play. Lynch gathers it. Gets the hand pass across his shoulder to Salisic. The youngster gathers. Thought about a hand pass himself. Now he goes for a left foot kick. Not a particularly good looking one off the boot. Fuster couldn't take the mark. Chance for Reinhardt. Ran into trouble. Was swung around but taken high.
Bit unfortunate there for the East Perth players, but the rules are the rules. And we'll see here that tackle around the back. Look, it was only very minimal.
The ball just... Hancock's hand just slipped off his back, over his neck and shoulder. There was never any purchase on his neck and shoulder. Barnard coming back onto the ground, so East Perth's skipper, for their last 3 premierships, is back onto the ground, but for the time being, it's Reinhardt who is going to make things very, very difficult for East Perth if he kicks the first goal of the final quarter. It's 11-15 to 7-5. Reinhardt sends it on its way. It drifts across to the left-hand side, minus score.
Close to the man on the mark.
Yes, he did.
Far too close.
Feel interesting that you're using Barnard up forward this half.
He was up there right in the third quarter for a period of time. I just wonder whether his body, he was opposed to Kepper Bradley. It certainly wasn't the right matchup from an East Perth point of view.
Going back a few years, 1999, he was their leading goal kicker, but since then almost exclusively a backman. Chambers, fleet of foot. He can run it inside 50 with a bounce. He kicked one from there earlier in the game. He's now kicked another one. And you reckon that could be the kick that seals a grand final for the Falcons. 4 goals to Callum Chambers, 4 goals, 2 in actual fact. He loves them on the run and he's very adept when the ball is out wide like that. And now West Perth out by 41 points.
He's such a highly skilled player. Here he is here. He just burns off Rod Wheatley's lunging tackle. One bounce. It's got great composure. Like when you're running, it's the hard part is to maintain everything in sequence there, and he got himself nice and balanced. Great follow through, and he's kicked, I think, 3 of the 4 goals basically exactly in the same fashion. So outstanding performance by Callum Chambers.
One of the real class acts here in the preliminary final of 2003, which has slipped away from the Royals. Ball up in the middle of the ground. Lalich beaten to it by Seavey. Rigol runs onto it. He was the star of the last quarter last week against Subiaco. No mark taken. Beck had the ball, I think, in the sun. Now it's Swan who bursts away, drives the ball out towards centre wing, but ill-directed pass goes straight to Coops. He gets his kick away, a floater up to the half-forward line. Cleared the pack, though. Whistle's gone. Another West Perth free kick.
Quentin Lynch, Phil.
Beck, I think, got into his back.
I don't know, it's an interesting move. This Zach Beck's playing centre-half back now. He's done a lot of work. Ryan Turnbull is still down there playing on Brendan Future, which is fair enough, but I just wonder how often Zach Beck, as you can see here, well...
Nothing in that.
Just a bit of normal contact that you expect, but I just wonder how often Zach Beck's actually played centre-half back. Lynch is pretty smart and he gets himself over the ground as a centre-half forward.
And as we keep on saying, he's a prodigious kick. Again, no exception. This one has travelled the distance. He was well outside 50. It's gone 65 metres at least, only for the minus score. But 4.5 minutes in, West Perth 12-17, West Perth 7-5. Spectators enjoying the afternoon in the stands, but it has not been an enjoyable day for the Royals.
Not an overly enjoyable day off the boot of Lynch either. 1-4 for him now this afternoon. He's had his chances as Turnbull gives it back to Pryor. Now they'll come members side on a bounce, on 2 bounces. Hand passes over the top to Humm, having drawn McLean from the defensive 50. Hoists it high and hopes. Yep, in front Seaby almost did. Bromott there, under pressure. Hand pass not controlled cleanly by Tucky. Flings it infield eventually, then taken high.
Lalich. Just an errant hand in there somewhere. Might have got Robert Hunt certainly up around the face region. But he's all right.
Interesting disposal there by Tucky. As Hunt, meanwhile, has gone to Lacroix by hand. He goes up towards half forward, and Lynch. Will he load up again? It's almost a similar distance out. This time he sets it to the top of the goal square. Longmuir is down there. McLean with him. Longmuir's recovery is pretty good. Then he falls to ground. Hand passes it back. Chance here for McLean. Over the shoulder. They've got another one. McLean gets his second. 57 for the season. West Perth are bound for the grand final next Sunday.
And isn't it going to be a great game of footy? Subiaco and West Perth, but Travis McLean, he had wonderful reflexes. A great effort by Troy Longmuir, his contest, and big Ryan Turnbull just to put enough pressure on him. But he loves the goal, the man on screen, and he's only kicked 2 today. But I can tell you one thing, he'll be hungry for them next Sunday afternoon. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, probably some tremors of anxiety starting to go through Subiaco, facing the prospects of West Perth next week in the grand final. The ball comes down to Murray. Gets a hand pass away. Bradley not favoured by the bounce. Here's Hancock, taken off him by Salasic's good football. Gives the hand pass off to Lascock. Long sweeping hand pass. Now forward of the play. Salicic is there. Gives the a long kick up toward full forward. Who's the target? Well, it was Fuster. He couldn't take it. Bounced off his chest. Chance now for McLean. Swings it high across his body. Will bounce in the square. Touched by Selwood. And it goes through for a rush behind.
He didn't really get onto that, did he, Travis McLean? It was...
didn't get it to spin right.
No, he spent more time up in the air. Brad Murray's just having a rest now from the ground, but he just got up and under it. You can see there, didn't really do what he wanted it to do.
Short kick into play, marked by David Swan. Goes out wide, and Humm has it. Jeremy Humm. Played some games again this year for the West Coast Eagles, but by no means a regular member. Salicic to a stationary Lacroix, who goes to an even more still Rigol, who marks near centre half forward. Rigol 31 possessions and 4 goals in a losing side. This week he'll kick less goals, have less possessions, but he'll leave the ground far happier in a winning team as Lynch goes out wide, but over the head of Longmuir. Humm will watch it go over the chalk.
Then if you were Subiaco watching on, you'd have to be a little bit worried for next week, wouldn't you?
It's a fine day, you might be, Rod. Look, they've certainly got some marking ability up in that front half. Longmuir adds to it. Bradley, Lynch, Fuster, if they all fired on one day, very dangerous.
Ball tossed in again. Beck and Lynch, neither really effective. McLean butters up for another go, almost the same result. A high, awkward kick. Marked.
Yep.
Fuster, body on body with Turnbull, and the younger man has taken the chest mark.
Well, it's going to be interesting going on from Rod Willett's comment. A terrific contested mark here from Brendan Fuster. And he's actually going to look forward to the grand final because he's got to redeem himself. He was beaten badly last Sunday by Daniel Metropolis. And he can go back and kick a goal now, and it will become his first goal for the afternoon. But West Perth will then go into 3 figures.
He's kicked 2 behinds, one of which rattled the goalpost. Fuster from point-blank range. Gee, from his reaction immediately kicked it. I thought it wasn't point-blank, but perhaps it was just relief that he put it through.
I think it was
finally.
a beauty, Glenn.
He's got his first. West Perth beyond the century. The lead now is out to the biggest they've had all afternoon. They're out by 55 points.
Well, he's a dangerous, opponent to play on. He hasn't dominated the game by any stretch of the imagination today, but he's taken 8 marks. 8 marks, you get 8 marks out of one of your key forwards in any given game of football, and you would think that forwards had a reasonable influence. He can have 8 marks in a game of football and not necessarily dominate the game. He's kicked 1 goal, and he probably hasn't been the big fear that East Perth would have been worrying about from a match point of view.
Lalich in ruck opposed to Seavey. Neither wins a clear knockdown, but it goes to Rigol. Got it off to Fuster. Fuster couldn't get a disposal away, but Seavey can. Wobbles it up to the half-forward line. Lynch, she's been the master,
shot.
hasn't he, all day? At centre-half forward. He's just getting the front berth all the time, and with his superior body strength, as we see Travis McLean on an earnest lead, it was ignored because I think Lynch fancies himself.
Well,
in fact, I'm sure he does.
Let's hope for his sake he can get the distance.
Lynch from about 68 metres, and again
1-5.
going for that extra distance, just draws it away to the left-hand side, but
do you reckon anybody actually looks up to the flags above the scoreboard over there? It is blowing from the southwest, so one honestly believes that means you've got to kick the ball to the right because it's going to go right to left off your boot.
I wonder down at ground level, though, where that breeze is coming from, Doro.
Pryor, short, Cow, amongst the nest of Falcons, takes the mark, then flings it on quickly. Lalich got it beyond the defensive 50. Absolutely scoreless so far in 11 minutes of the last quarter, East Perth. They were goalless in the second term, and they managed just 3 behinds as Todd Curley runs it over the line.
Looking ahead to next week, Glenn, I suppose it depends on how much, well, one of the factors is how much petrol West Perth has used today.
The only thing is now they're not being challenged greatly in the last quarter. They'll still run it out to the end, but perhaps not as urgently or as frenetically as they would if scores were a lot closer. Truella, Bradley, now Lascott from a stand start, tumbles it up high in the air, and Barnard stands his ground to take the mark.
And they still have got Corey Johnson to come back if he is indeed fit, and Christian Kelly hasn't played today for whatever reason. Long kick from Barnard, good mark taken there by Simmons, gives it off to Butcher, now to Swan. East Perth going forward, beautiful pass by Swan. Wilson on the lead. We saw that sort of combination, that sort of build-up in the first quarter of today's preliminary final, but it's been absent for most of East Perth's match, to the discontent, I'm sure, of their supporters. They would have liked to have seen a lot more of it, Doro.
Yeah, they would have, and Simon Duckworth's done a pretty good job, and Troy Wilson, as usually, marks a spot where he's going to kick the ball from now. He's marked just outside 50, about 52, 53 metres, so he's going to have to kick the ball all of 55 to clear the goal line. Hasn't had a great day today. Simon Duckworth's done a pretty good job.
Well, no goals to Troy Wilson this afternoon, so certainly as the key forward, they need a better effort out of him than that. He's still without a goal, 2 behinds only, so a poor miss after a good build-up. Very important for East Perth that they finish off in the right spirit.
Well, West Perth have had their measure. They lost the first encounter in round 2 of the season by 32 points, but now they've won the last 3 times that they've met this season, including that bizarre game where they held East Perth goalless back in round 20. Lacroix out wide to Todd Curley, who made hard work of that. As he paid the mark, he is. The umpire Bandy's almost out of breath. He blew the whistle, he could hardly hear it. Todd Curley's got it at left full back. West Perth now sensing, no doubt, that they've got a grand final appointment. Across the full back line to the skipper. Truella can go for a run through the shade after a bounce. Kicks out wide to the outer side. Hunt out there, sport by Lalich. Ball on the ground. Socket away from Lascott. Lalich follows up that little soccer. Gets a high kick, running back with the flight. Truella takes the mark. Comes back infield on the defensive 50. Taken there by Lacroix, who goes out very wide. They hug the line. This is the dangerous Callum Chambers. More dangerous, fair to say, when he's on the run. He's a very penetrating kick when he's got leg speed up. Looking for an option. He's got Reinhardt on offer very short, as Murray looks like he's copped one on the hip, getting it iced up. They'll go into maintenance mode straight after the game, West Perth, to make sure every one of this squad of 22 is fit for next week. Fuster with strength. Hand pass to Longmuir. Can he get his 4th? No. Missing to the right-hand side. So Troy Longmuir, 3 goals, 2 this afternoon. And West Perth back to that lead of 56 points.
Simon Duckworth ran the whole length of the ground there, looking to see if he can get on the end of the queue and have a shot on goal. Not to be.
should be saving himself for next week as Pryor makes a few metres, goes straight down the middle of the ground. No use hugging the flanks now. Lynch with a prodigious punch back inside 50. Britton a chance, runs into Hum. Neither of them get a clear possession. Hum just works the ball towards Selwood, who got a hand pass away, but it ended up with Longmuir. He swings it across his body. Who's down there? Fuchsia from behind. Did he get first bite? He did. Pryor in front, but with superior reach and height, Brendan Fuster has taken a very, very good mark. And look, he could be, as you say, he's been certainly down last week. Not brilliant today, but coming into form, he's going to be a dangerous man for Subiaco to contend with next week.
Well, he's just got to go and keep on attacking the football. As a forward, he's got such a big, strong body. If he leads up all the time and they kick it to him, he's going to cause enormous problems.
As Fuster shoots on goal, Callum Chambers coming off the ground. So Darren Harris is keeping his players as fresh as he possibly can. There's fresh look on the face of Darren Fuster, congratulated by his teammates as he has gone back and kicked his second goal for the afternoon, both of them coming in this term.
Well, the game's over now, and we're only halfway through the last quarter. I suppose West Perth, you would hope, aren't going to certainly preserve themselves. They want to keep on. While you're in good form, keep on grinding the opposition as quickly as you can. And Brendan's had a pretty good game today. He certainly caused some problems down there, and he would be well happy with his result today.
Ball back in the middle. Biggest lead of the game. 62 points in favour of the Falcons. Lalich wins it down in the middle. Simmons well tackled, ball held to him, and we'll have another bounce.
John, what this will do for West Perth as well is give them an enormous amount of confidence for next week.
Certainly will. The inside 50s, 54-25. That is a blowout, John.
Certainly is. 2-1 and 35-13 scoring shots tells the story.
We saw then centre breaks 18-7. As Perth have everything covered today. Seaby's kick ineffective. Trying to bullock his way through there is Tucky. The ball held to him. And we'll have another bounce. The ball still inside the centre square. Well, East Perth fans looking forlorn, but in the years to come they'll reflect on that hat-trick of premierships. It hasn't been done too often in the WAFL. Butcher grubbers a kick up towards half-forward, coming out in defence. Lascock, his hand pass has been knocked the wrong way. Ridley a chance. Can he get his fifth? He can. 71 goals this season. Paul Ridley, the only multiple goal scorer today, and he's got 5 of his team's 8 goals.
Well, he's really had a terrific game today, Paul Ridley. As a forward, you only can do what you can do with the opportunities that come by, and he's kicked 5 of 8 goals for East Perth, which is an outstanding effort. And I'm not sure how many goals Paul kicked last year, Glenn, but he did win East Perth best and fairest. They continue to count votes in finals, and I think that he's been their best player from that point of view today with Andrew Lovett. One would suspect he'd go very close to winning their best and fairest again.
57 goals last year. He said he's now got 71, and he's got all 4 East Perth goals since half-time.
Amazing.
Outstanding performance by Ridley. He's just lacked a bit of support. Ball up. Won by Lalich. He palmed it down nicely to Cow, who fumbled. Gives it off to Hum. He tried to give off as well. The ball has come unstuck, and an ugly scrimmage develops.
Said it's a terrific effort. 71 goals when you're 180 centimetres, and that's 5'11" in the old language. It's hardly a key marking forward. It's very clever football.
Oh, absolutely, but it should never be left to people of that size, Glenn, to be your leading goal scorer.
Seavey knocked the ball down to the foot of the pack and then dived on it himself, so the players are getting very tired.
Yeah, but it's no disrespect to Troy Wilson, who's kicked 50 goals. Brent Tucky's kicked, I think, 40 plus, I think, for the season. So they've had 3 very good targets up there, but it's just today, I think Brent Tucky's tried very hard. Troy Wilson hasn't had a good day.
Nicola Bradley went for that unopposed, but shepherding against a West Perth player. So now the free kick. I think Lovett's been their best player. This kick is a poor one. It just didn't get it to spin right. Ridley asked the question, but Cousins has taken the saving mark. Chips it into the centre of the ground, or just backward thereof, and it's been marked by Logan. Will play in another grand final for West Perth. So too this man, their captain, Stephen Truella. Hand passes over to the fast finishing Regan Duckworth. Gets his kick in to the half-forward line. Lynch on the burst and really on the charge. He's corralled across the boundary line by Cowell.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We remember back to the second semi-final. That man on screen started on Brad Smith. I don't think that'll happen again.
Interesting to see how they do start next week, as Truella gets a very high up and under. Difficult one to mark. Cowell kept his eyes on the footy and took a chest mark.
One would suspect Simon Duckworth would get first crack at Brad Smith. He's done a wonderful job on Troy Wilson today.
Cal looking there for Butcher, couldn't find him, but Buzan, having one of his few possessions for this afternoon, goes up long, looking there for Wilson, reading the crumbs there. Ridley, he's hit the post. His first blemish in front of goals this afternoon, and Paul Ridley has hit the post. Can't believe it.
Well, Todd Ridley's down there now. Simon Duckworth is somewhere out on the ground, I think, Phil, but Todd Ridley was just manning up
Paul?
Troy Wilson for that little period of time. Not Todd.
No, not Todd.
What did I say?
Todd.
Todd Curley. That'd be him. That's a Ridley.
Kick into play, marked by Logan. 2-1 on the scoreboard. 110 playing 55. Cousins on the end of it. And the shadows in the defensive 50 still the Falcons, but they've been in the sunshine for the bulk of the day. They trailed by 14 points at quarter time, then 9 unanswered goals in the second term, and from there they've controlled the ball game well and truly. Duckworth couldn't control at that time in front, and we're going to have a bounce.
Couldn't believe I brought up Todd Ridley's name. It must have been that lasting impression of the highlights of him in the 96 grand final when he won the Simpson medal and he had hair.
And 8 goals.
A lot changes in 7 years, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Especially the hair. The ball's been bounced. One down by Seavey. Onto it, Bromont. Goes long and goes pretty well. It fades across the face. Big leap in the end down there by Wilson, but all he's done is assist it through for a behind.
It's going to be interesting times, I think, for East Perth with their ageing squad as to what they do, you know, in regards to next season, Jeremy Barnard and those guys.
He's got aspirations as a goal umpire. Troy Wilson grabbed the flags when he had the opportunity on the way down. Cousins on the burst for West Perth, goes to the middle of the ground. Rigol, one of the ageing members of the West Perth lineup, but still a very important one, goes up to the half-forward line, looking there for Hunt, got the sun in his eyes. Beck releases the hand pass to Barnard. Does likewise to Pryor, who goes out wide. Some free-running East Perth players now, but it's all too late. It's Pryor. Gets it on to Butcher. Becoming, well, the sting has gone out of the game, obviously enough, as Butcher finishes off and finds Swan on report. So he might have a late start to next season as he goes looking for Wilson. He's taken the mark for a free kick. We'll come back to Troy Wilson. Swan reported earlier in the day for striking Clayton Lascott. There is the free kick, I think, must have been awarded to Troy Wilson.
Well, there's 5 triple premiership players, Phil, which I'd be very intrigued to see what happens. Ridley will certainly play, I would think. Wheatley, Barnard, David Swan and Ryan Turnbull, the 4 that are 29-30, as to whether they have the hunger and the commitment to continue on beyond this season.
Well, let's see what Wilson can do as he comes in, shoots, and I think he's got it. Yep. He's got his first for the day. It comes up at the 22.5-minute mark of the final quarter, so not the match that Troy Wilson came here to Subiaco Oval hoping for today in more ways than one.
No, it's been a pretty tough day at the office for him. Look, he's presented himself up and tried very hard, but unfortunately some days it doesn't turn out the way you want it, and today is one of those days, not only for him but for his whole side. I'm quite sure they would have all arrived at Subiaco with great hope and anticipation of today's game. And sometimes your best intent doesn't always work out, and West Perth have been sensational today. That second quarter was quite outstanding.
The margin standing at 8 goals, 3 minutes into time on. Butcher, a high kick. It will travel 15 metres. No one good enough to mark it. That's no surprise. Logan, a hand pass off to McLean. McLean, a hurried kick up towards centre half forward. Fuster crashes the pack. Turnbull does the roving. Fuster's actually crashed into his own teammate down there and has done a little bit of damage, one would think, to, in fact, Fuster's the one that's come up sore.
Yeah. Hopefully he's only winded himself.
Gee, he's down on his knees. A trainer has arrived. Meanwhile, East Perth taking it forward through Selwood, and still no sign of Fuster getting up. Selwood, a hand pass. Butcher needs to be quick. That's holding the ball. Run down from behind by a stealth-like Reinhardt. They wanted to take the advantage. There's none, and Fuster is up on one knee, as you can see. But he's not 100% as Logan now plays on after the free kick. Goes up towards left half forward, and Todd Curley, that was tailor-made for him, just leapt over the top of Wheatley.
Reinhardt's got some real get up and go about him. That was a terrific tackle, although it was all set and made up for him, but just his commitment, you know, in the 24-minute mark of the final quarter.
Ooh, he twisted something, I think, Doro. Fuster, so let's hope that he's okay as Todd Curley kicks searchingly up toward full forward. Lynch, who's been a great player for them this afternoon, so too Troy Longmuir, snaps it up toward the goal square. Kepler Bradley dropped what he should have taken, and the ball has ricocheted off
East Perth
his
player
shoulder.
down there, I think it's Jeremy Barnard, the captain, just in the forward pocket, the left forward pocket.
It is Barnard, just for the moment.
He's had a tough couple of weeks. He went off last week in the first semi, Jeremy. Came back on, so his body's feeling the pain.
Ball comes down to the front of the pack. Troy Longmuir onto his right boot, and he's missed it again, not by a long way. Troy Longmuir, but gee, he has been a live wire around the goals all afternoon. 3 goals, 3 Troy Longmuir. And there, some ice on the knee of Glenn Britton by the look of it, so let's hope nothing too problematical for Britton, who likewise has been a danger man around the goals for West Perth today.
The inside 50s for the match, 56-30 in favour of the Falcons, and that gives us that lopsided scoreline of 49 points in favour of the Falcons. Pryor by hand. Cowell crosses the defensive 50. Out wide with the kick. Curley back. Fists it out of play. And there is Todd Curley. Had 116 games with the Western Bulldogs, and today he's playing game number 114 with West Perth. 230 senior games of football. Huzan, a rare run on the ground for him, won it down, but Logan is there, takes it out of play under pressure from Selwood.
Well, he won't be far away from life membership with West Perth. I'm not sure what their criteria is. Normally it's generally 150 games, but may very well have relaxed that with his AFL games included as well.
Huzan took a big swing, didn't make a great deal of contact. Butcher suffers off the ground. Reinhardt there to the aforementioned Curley. Goes up towards the sliding Bradley. Couldn't mark. Doing well there, Hancock. Huzan flings it out wide. And the pacey Simmons will run onto the ball. He gets a good shepherd off the play. Allows him to straighten up. Now, what's going to go on here? They're turning it over. Well, Bromott was fighting out of his weight division there against Quentin Lynch, and he's got him over the shoulder. And just when East Perth was surging inside 50, the ball will come back for West Perth to clear from half-back.
Yes, I was watching that with interest. Bromott fighting out of his division, and I didn't see anything that really warranted it being turned over. Lynch, with his free kick, turns it into a hand pass and gives it to Regan Duckworth. Looking for Bradley. He's on the lead. Gathers it. Feeds the hand pass back to Logan. As always, a valuable player. He finds Hunt at left half forward. Robert Hunt gets the kick away just in time. Troy Longmuir with a couple to beat. Backs into the pack with great courage. It was a bit of a floater, hard to judge in flight, but Troy Longmuir just kept his eyes on it, just kept going back into the pack, and took a very, very well-earned mark and a bit extra.
Well, there was a good screen from Kim Regol in the first instance, and then Robert Hunt. Longmuir went out to the right of screen, then he cut back into the left-hand pocket, and it was a good little kick by Hunt, but it made it tough for him. Hunt made him earn it.
For goal number 4, Troy Longmuir never had that one on line. It was an easy miss in the end. All academic, of course, at the moment, because the scoreboard no longer an issue in this match. It really hasn't been for quite some time.
He's going to be a good acquisition, certainly next Sunday afternoon. Subiaco, I'm sure Peter German will be thinking long and hard as to who the right one is for Troy Longmuir.
4 goals, 7 in this final quarter for West Perth. They could be further in front than 50 points. Cowell has marked the kick in. Goes looking for Butcher. It was a pinpoint kick, and he takes the mark. Butcher now has Simmons forward to the centre circle. Needs a good bounce and gets it. Regan Duckworth loses his footing. McLean almost collars Simmons as he kicks inside 50. The fist back there in defence from Duckworth, who's done a good job in the last line today. Hunter's there. He's got Salisic free. He goes back by hand, though, instead to Duckworth. Salisic is still free, but they go further down ground, and Truella thwarted from behind by Selwood. The latter has the better recovery, but in the end, West Perth are able to steal it away. They get it across to Logan. Logan loops a hand pass out wide, and away they go. Well, Reinhardt was travelling too quickly to take a bounce, I think. Sockers it away, but only as far as the East Perth co-captain Barnard Another East Perth player, Bromont. They've had about 4 players in the last half that have gone down with cramp.
East Perth still making mistakes with chest marks, allows Truella into the action. He goes up towards the half-forward line. Reinhardt had Turnbull to beat. Turnbull did well. Hand pass to Hancock. He shrugs a tackle. Now he gets around Kepler Bradley with the help of a shepherd from Barnard. Goes up to the half-forward line. That'll be a free kick to Regan Duckworth. No, play on's the call. Logan releases a hand pass to Lascott. Here's Seavey. What a great season he's had. Short pass to Todd Curley. Been a very good player this afternoon, Curley. You can't help but think that he's going to be a very important part, or have an important part play for the Falcons next week. Simon Duckworth, reckless. That should be reportable.
Hook's coming out.
Straight away, because there was just no need for it. Now, the West Perth players,
need to be careful.
Why are they doing this? I just cannot understand why the West Perth players would get involved in this. It's senseless. It's as senseless as the act of Troy Butchers. They just want to walk away from it.
Got to watch out for the eye gouging. The
Jeremy
boys in red and blue
come in late. Now, this is very silly. East Perth obviously frustrated, but West Perth just want to turn their backs and walk away from this.
It's just there's just nothing to prove here. They've got so much to prove next week, right here against Subiaco. The umpires are having some task. This is the hardest task they've had all day to try and sort all this out.
Now it's going to be for the report. He's got to get that out of the way first. He hasn't been able to do that.
He's gone back to the scene of the crime. Now it's a 50-metre penalty. And that was just as reckless as it comes. Now, fortunately, Simon Duckworth is not seriously hurt.
He was always looking for a goal, Simon, because I could see that unfolding, but
well, perhaps some fines for wrestling. We haven't seen anything apart from the reportable incident that probably demands more punitive action than that.
Safe to say, I think that 2 East Perth players are going to start the season late next year.
No doubt about that. Swan and Butcher, as the siren goes, an anti-climax after a bit of a box on to finish the preliminary final. In fact, it will be finished by a goal to Simon Duckworth, their full-back, who's done a great job all day on Troy Wilson, keeping him to 1 goal. Goes up the other end of the ground and finishes with 1 himself. Jubilation as far as the Falcons is concerned. It was a dominating performance today by the Red and Blues. They've earned their spot in next week's grand final against Subiaco in front of 7,755 people. West Perth, 16 goals, 22, 118. They've run out big winners over East Perth. And I missed the final score there, Doris.
I've got that here for you, Philip.
8-9-8-62.
Well, it's almost a carbon copy, but in reverse of what happened last year. When they met in the grand final, East Perth won their 3rd consecutive flag by a margin of 60 points. And the next time these teams have met in a final, it's been West Perth to the tune of 56 points. They'll play the Lions next week. And East Perth's tilt at history since the introduction of the Final Four system in 1931. They were looking to become the first team this season to win 4 consecutive premierships, well, they've fallen at the preliminary final. Callum Chambers, a star, he electrified the game in the second quarter. He's down on the ground with Rod Willett.
Callum, well done. How good does that feel to beat East Perth?
Yeah, it feels pretty good. I mean, the old side, I've got a lot of premiership teammates out there that we're running around against, but anytime you can win a preliminary final, whatever side you play, it just feels real good.
An explosive second quarter by West Perth and really led by you going into the midfield.
Yeah, sometimes the ball just bounces your way and I found a bit of space there, which was great. I think that's the most goals I've ever kicked in a game, let alone a quarter. So, no, it felt pretty good and I just don't know what it was. We all felt really great out there and we got on top.
Mate, we spoke briefly before the game and you said how much you're enjoying your footy over here.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it was frustrating just, not to play as many games as I would have liked, but the thing is we've got a great side over here, a good young side, and I really do want to be a part of that. So, I'm willing to work as hard as I can and make sure that, that I'm there next year. And, it'd be great just to top it off this year with a premiership medal with the Falcons.
West Perth is certainly looking very confident at the moment. How do you reckon you're going to go against Subi next week?
I hopefully past form's not anything to go by, but we'll be fired up just like we were today, and I'm sure if we can play anything up to the level that we played at today, then we've got to be a good shot. So I think they'll be pretty impressed with the way we played today, so it should be a real good contest.
Fantastic work and well done, Callum.
Callum Chambers a star, but he had plenty of teammates that took the limelight with him. East Perth 3 consecutive flags. They've tilted a 4th, ends at the preliminary final. Brent Cowell polled heavily on Sandover Medal Night on Wednesday. He's there with Chambers now. Both men a friendly finish to the game post-siren. It got a bit ugly just before the siren, but West Perth certainly live to fight another day. They have run out winners by 56 points here at Subiaco Oval. And next week a special game for the Subiaco Football Club, because this is the last year that they will call Subiaco their home. They'll be moving to Leederville Oval, which they will co-share with East Perth from next season. So Subiaco added motivation to beat the Falcons next week, as West Perth have a great band of loyal supporters, many of them here today, and no doubt even more of them will be here next Sunday to see their team take on the Subiaco Lions. There's the final score. Chambers 4 goals, Troy Longmuir 3. Between them they kicked 6 goals, 3 apiece in a dynamic second term. And on the right of the page, well, what can you say? Paul Ridley, a lone figure, 5 goals today, 71 for the season. He could well win his second consecutive best and fairest. Well, the tail of the game was in the second term. A 14-point deficit at quarter time for the Falcons, but they went to half-time leading by 41 points, 9 goals for to just 3 behinds in the second quarter. And from there, catch-up footy was the order of the day for East Perth, and try as they might, they never did catch up. 56 points the final margin. We're about to sign off from Subiaco Oval. You've got a week to think about it, John, but we'll put you on the spot right now. Who do you fancy in 7 days' time?
West Perth, Phil.
I'm going the Lions.
Absolutely.
I wonder why. A 200-game player and a premiership player as well with Subiaco. West Perth, 56-point winners. They're in their second consecutive grand final. Can they get their first premiership since 1999? Subi chasing their first in the last 15 years. Hope you can join us here next weekend at Subiaco Oval. Hopefully it'll be a crackerjack grand final when the Lions take on the Falcons. We'll see you then.